scattered across America are countless towns in ruins, many of which were once prosperous industrial centers. The decline of the United States manufacturing industry is a story similar to that of every other industry that has left the country in this new era of the global economy. After international trade barriers were lifted in the late 1900s, corporations flooded around the world to take advantage of cheap labor. However, tax incentives, subsidies, and government efforts to bring those jobs back have begun to reverse this trend.
American manufacturers are bringing offshore jobs back to the U.S.
TSMC is getting more than $11 billion in federal assistance.
Apple announced today it will invest $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years.
So, is it possible that we could bring this type of industry back? And how would it benefit American workers? In 1979, over 19 million Americans were employed in manufacturing. Since then, that number has dramatically fallen by nearly 36%, down to just 12.5 million in 2021. Automation, outsourcing, and globalization caused manufacturing jobs in the U.S. to collapse. On the other hand, cheaper labor in countries like China and India prompted many companies to move their operations to these countries, causing manufacturing production to soar.
Textiles, toys, electronics. For the last 2 decades, the world has become accustomed to these carrying the label Made in China.
However, the repercussions of these decisions were not felt in the U.S. labor market until decades later, when the world saw the rise of a new global power, one capable of challenging the United States.
China is now simply too large for the rest of the world to absorb this enormous capacity.
In the 1990s, China opened its doors to the world, quickly attracting foreign investment from companies around the globe, who, tempted by the reduction in production costs, didn't consider the potential long-term repercussions. Automotive giants like Volkswagen moved their car production to cities across the country. European and even American brands like General Motors followed suit. Soon, China was flooded with foreign-made cars and factories producing all sorts of goods, from automobiles to textiles. But the Chinese government had other plans than just being a country with cheap labor. China wanted to produce its own goods. After decades of learning automotive production, and with the support of the Xi Jinping government, China began to produce its own cars. Brands like BYD and Huawei were ahead of the electric car trend, giving them a significant advantage over brands like Volkswagen, which had once been their sponsors.
Volkswagen is caught in a price war in China, slashing prices in a desperate bid to hold on to its market position because competition has become fierce in the country, and it's foreign car makers that are losing.
Now it's Chinese car companies that are on the rise and preparing to shop their electric models around the globe.
By the early 2000s, the roles began to reverse. Now, it was Chinese brands that started flooding Europe, and especially the United States, with their products.
It's our ambition to become the global leader.
Chinese imports to the U.S. skyrocketed, making China one of the country's most important trading partners. However, this wave of imports and cheaper products for American consumers caused an imbalance in the trade balance. In the past 20 years, the trade balance has shifted dramatically in favor of China, leaving the U.S. far behind. In 2017, when Trump first arrived at the White House, he began to notice this problem, taking action against Chinese imports. The Biden administration did the same with a focus on semiconductors and electric vehicles.
The future of the chip industry is going to be made in America.
In recent years, the U.S. has been taking action to balance the trade deficit, but especially to bring back all those jobs that were lost due to lower production costs in other countries.
We want cars built in the USA. It's very simple. We'll be having auto manufacturing at levels that we haven't seen in 50 years.
Through tax incentives, subsidies, and the redirection of investments into strategic sectors like electric vehicles and semiconductors, efforts have been made to bring manufacturing back to U.S. soil. This process, known as reshoring, has been key to revitalizing the industry and ensuring the country's competitiveness in an increasingly interconnected world. And these efforts are starting to yield results.
Within the last 2 weeks, several companies, including Apple, have launched they plan to spend billions of dollars in the U.S.
Several companies committing to invest in the U.S. Apple $500 billion, and Eli Lilly at least $27 billion.
TSMC, for example, plans to make a fresh $100 billion investment in the United States, involving the construction of 5 additional chip facilities in the coming years.
Today, Taiwan Semiconductor is announcing that they will be investing at least $100 billion in new capital in the United States over the next short period of time. The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America.
Tax incentive policies, in particular, have played a crucial role in this transformation. One of the most significant pieces of legislation in this regard is the Inflation Reduction Act. This law, which focuses on promoting clean energy and electric vehicles, has allocated substantial resources to stimulate domestic production in these sectors.
It steers billions in subsidies into everything from battery manufacturing to climate adaptation. It contains tax incentives for people to buy electric cars and cleaner technologies in their homes, and it directs large investments to fight pollution in underserved communities.
The tax incentives included in the law, such as $7,500 credits for each new electric vehicle and $4,000 credits for the sale of used cars, have generated a significant increase in private investments within the electric vehicle supply chain in the U.S. Since its enactment, at least $45 billion in private investments have been announced in this sector. On the other hand, the CHIPS and Science Act has been another cornerstone of the U.S. reindustrialization, especially in the semiconductor sector. The law allocates $50 billion to strengthen U.S. competitiveness in semiconductor production, a critical area for the digital economy and national defense. According to the Semiconductor Industry Association, the CHIPS Act has attracted more than $210 billion in private investments across 22 states, highlighting the positive impact of these policies on job creation in the country. The manufacturing industry in the U.S. faces significant challenges, especially concerning the shortage of skilled workers and the need for educational reforms to better prepare the next generation for these jobs. However, despite the obstacles, the return of manufacturing has generated renewed enthusiasm and has proven to be an opportunity to create well-paying jobs and develop key technologies for the future.
Factory construction has doubled across the United States in the past year, with hundreds of billions of government dollars pouring in to boost domestic manufacturing.
The path to a stronger manufacturing industry in the U.S. remains uncertain, but the implemented policies and the growing investment in strategic sectors show that the country is determined to reclaim its position as a global leader in the production of manufactured goods. Tax incentive policies, the redirection of supply chains, and a focus on key sectors could provide the necessary push to ensure a prosperous future for manufacturing in the U.S.
At Economy Media, your opinion matters to us. Subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments below.